Today, we are going to be reading Mommy's Khimar by Jamila Tompkins Bigelow. We are going to use this text to learn about words and phrases that express emotion or feelings. While we are reading, we are going to try to understand how characters felt based off of descriptive five senses language. We will also take time to think about how we felt reading the story or if we can relate to our characters. Have any of you ever read a story that made you think of or even feel a certain emotion?
Yeah.
That is awesome to see so many hands. When we read stories, our authors often use language that suggests feelings that our characters are feeling. Before we begin reading Mommy's Khimar, some of the words in this book may be new to us, so it's important that we cover them together before we dive in. Has anyone ever heard the word Khimar before?
No.
No? Well, if you look at the cover of our story, you will see a woman and a young girl wearing the Khimar. It is the headscarf or head covering that is worn by some Muslim women. Hijab is also a new word. It's a word that can be used interchangeably with Khimar. This means that when we say Khimar or hijab, we are talking about the same thing. As we read the story together, we will listen for descriptive words or phrases in our story that connect to our five senses. On our anchor chart, we will write down our descriptive word or phrase, and then next to the word or phrase, we will write down the sense that it applies to. In our discussion, but not included on the anchor chart, we will be writing down how our descriptive phrase applies to character emotions. Does anyone have a question before we begin?
No.
You may quietly raise your hands if you do. If not, let's place our hands in our laps and turn our listening ears on. Remember to listen for words or phrases that express feelings as I read this story with you. All right, so let's get out Mommy's Khimar. And let's turn to our first page. A khimar is a flowing scarf that my mommy wears. Before she walks out the door each day, she wraps one around her head. In Mommy's closet, there are so many khimars, so many that I can't count them. Black ones, white ones, purple, blue, and red, stripes, patterns, and polka dots too. Some have tassels, some have beads, some have sparkly things all over. And she has my favorite color, yellow. When I put on Mommy's Khimar, I become a queen with a golden train. So, as a reader right now, I'm already making a personal connection to the story. So quietly raise your hand if you're feeling this way too. Amazing. You can put your hands down now. For myself, I can see the picture and how proud the girl is to be wearing her mother's khimar. I remember being this excited to dress in my mother's clothes as well when I was little. Think about a time in your head right now where you felt proud. What made you feel this way? Good job making connections in your head to the text readers. Let's keep on going. Under the khimar, my braids and twists form a bumpy crown. It's not easy to cover the many plaits that Mommy puts in my hair. Here you can see her mother and her. She's now wearing the hijab just like her mom. When I wear Mommy's khimar, I shine like the sun. I dive and become a shooting star into a pile of clouds. Of course, I make sure that Mommy doesn't see me. When I wear Mommy's khimar, I am a mama bird. I spread my golden wings and shield my baby brother as he sleeps in his nest. Mommy shakes her head, but her eyes are smiling. That phrase right there, her eyes are smiling. Look at the picture. They did a great job of showing how her eyes are smiling, looking at her daughter. It says, so Mommy shakes her head, but her eyes were smiling. I don't believe I've ever seen anyone's eyes smile before. Have you? Are her eyes really smiling? This gives me a hint that the author is trying to tell us something about the mother, and I think we should give it some more thought. Take a couple of minutes and find a partner. We have an even number of students today, so it should work out perfectly. Take the time and talk about what the author might mean by her eyes were smiling. Also talk about what emotion the mother may be feeling. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes in order to reflect on what you were thinking and talk with your partner. I heard some great conversations as you were talking. We usually smile with our mouths when we are happy, but many of you brought up that we can still tell when a person is happy versus when they are sad based on their eyes. I heard a few of you mention how our eyes get smaller or squint, and then even scrunch up when we're smiling. The author is probably trying to tell us that we can tell how happy the mother is from the way her eyes look too. Let's write that down. Her eyes were smiling on our anchor chart, and then we'll write down which sense it applies to next. Yeah, our sight. That's which sense it applies to because we're seeing it. Great work. Remember to keep thinking about emotions in your mind while we are reading. All right, let's keep going. And not only that, but her eyes are smiling. What are we all wearing now? Our masks. We all have masks on, but you can still tell when a person is smiling, right? When I wear Mommy's Khimar, I am a superhero in a cape, dashing from room to room at the speed of light. Daddy snatches me up and I fly. Mommy can't stop laughing when his bristly beard tickles my cheek with a kiss. When I wear Mommy's Khimar, Mommy is with me even when she's away. I close my eyes, and if I breathe in deeply, really deeply, I smell the coconut oil in Mommy's hair and the cocoa butter on her skin. And if I breathe in even more deeply than that, I smell the cinnamon in her favorite dessert. She always shares a piece. This section is really getting into our senses, huh? Our senses can also be used to expand on the emotions that our characters are feeling. The young girl here describes that even when her mother's away, she can wear the Khimar and feel and almost smell the coconut oil in her hair and feel the cocoa butter from her mother's skin. What type of emotion might we feel when we're reminded of a loved one? Can someone please raise their hand and share their thoughts?
Happy.
Happy, yeah, that's a great one. Both, and also, yes, comfort. I know I always feel so comforted by the smell of my grandmother's perfume or my grandfather's aftershave. Our sensors can bring out those feelings and bring us back to different stories and make connections. Just like the daughter felt comforted by the senses that the Khimar reminded her of. So on our anchor chart, let's take the time to write coconut oil and cocoa butter, and the feeling and the smell of those things. The young girl in the story said that these smells remind her of her mother, so we'll make sure to put smell with the coconut oil and how it makes her feel. When was the last time that you can remember associating one of your 5 senses with an emotion you felt? This is likely a memory that stuck with you long after it passed. So maybe you didn't even realize that it was connected to one or more of your 5 senses. Think about it inside your head for just a minute or so, and then turn to a partner and share your thoughts. Great job! I heard some great conversations. Thank you all for sharing and sharing with your partners. All right, let's keep reading our story and see what other emotions she felt. When I wear Mommy's Khimar and Mom visits after Sunday service, she sings out, "Sweet Jesus," and calls me sunshine. Mom doesn't wear a Khimar. She doesn't go to the mosque like Mommy and Daddy do. We are family and we love each other just the same. Let's take a minute and reflect on our own experiences with religion for just a moment. Our main character has just shared that her grandmother does not wear a hijab like her mother or go to a mosque like her parents. All families have different experiences with religion, and some families may have different beliefs from one another's family members. We're not going to stop to reflect on it, but I want you to keep that inside your mind, that it's something that we pick up on when we are reading stories like this. When I go to the mosque wearing Mommy's Khimar, the older women coo, "Assalamu alaikum, little sis." Mommy smiles, so proud. My Arabic teacher exclaims, "Beautiful hijab, beautiful hijab." Hijab is the word she uses for Khimar. Sometimes I say hijab too. See, there was hijab. That was one of our new vocabulary words along with Khimar. Remember, they mean the same thing. When I wear Mommy's Khimar and we go home and it starts to get dark outside, Mommy tells me gently, "Take it off. It is time for sleep." She removes the Khimar from her head and I remove mine. We hang them up for the night. I look around at all the Khimars, too many to count. I stroke the yellow scarf one last time. I close my eyes and breathe in deeply, really deeply. And if I breathe in deeply enough, I can take Mommy's Khimar with me. I place it inside my head. I take other things and place them there too. A crown with a train, the sun and a shooting star, a baby dozing on a golden wing. I take a ticklish kiss in the sky, coconut and cocoa with a cinnamon sweet, and the prayers of gray-haired women. Right there on those couple of pages, the author's using a lot of language. I'm trying to keep up with all of it and how these phrases are making the characters feel in our story. Once I figured out how the characters feel, I try to reflect on how it made me feel. I also might think back on a time that I felt a similar way. Sometimes we may want to slow down and reflect on why we have so many different types of language packed into just a couple of pages. A part of understanding our story is reflecting on our experiences with the story. So remember that if you feel the need to slow down, this could be a hint that there's a lot of important information on those pages. I take all the things with me and go to sleep. Though Mommy is away, it feels like she comes too. All right, that is the end of our story. So let's take a moment and do a little reflecting on it. So after reading this book, I feel like I saw lots of emotion from the language that the author used, identifying words and phrases that express feelings that made a super strong and deep connection with the characters. It helped me to understand what emotions they felt as they continued throughout the story. So also as a reader, I felt like understanding the emotion of the characters affected how I was responding. I found myself responding to character emotion as I was thinking about the story. For example, when we read about how happy the daughter was to wear the Khimar like her mother, it made me reflect on a time when I felt this happiness as well. I thought about happiness and how happy I felt when I carried my own purse like my mother did. There are things that our families and mothers pass down, and we feel so proud of them. I hope that as you read the story, you were also able to think of times where you felt similar emotions to our characters. This skill helps us see how a diverse range of stories and characters can be relevant to our own lives. And I also hope that after completing this lesson, you now have a better understanding of descriptive words as they apply to our 5 senses. Using our 5 senses is a great way to read and connect with our audience when we are writing. So when it turns around and comes time for you to write a story, I encourage you to think about your 5 senses and how you could use them to paint a stronger depiction for your readers.